My name's Patrick McGinnis, and I'll admit it, I have FOMO. And since you're here, I'm going to bet that you do too. But that doesn't have to be a bad thing. If you learn to channel your FOMO productively, you can make the most of every opportunity while keeping your sanity in the process. This is FOMO Sapiens After Hours, the snackable show about how you can make FOMO a force for good. Hey everybody, welcome back to FOMO Sapiens After Hours. We're here with another episode to talk about what we talked about last week on the show, finding flow. We're talking to Stephen Kotler about how you find flow and what are the benefits of flow. And so I wanted to get a little deeper into that. I did some reading and thinking over the weekend and wanted to share some additional ideas on the topic because it's important, right? If you've ever been in a flow state, and you have, I know you have, we all have, it feels good and you want it to be replicated as many times as possible. But before we get there, I do want to share some very interesting listener mail I got from listener Eric Isle. And Eric wrote in because he listened to our episode from January 25th, that After Hours, where I was talking about the word of the year, momentum, picking up momentum, and how I try to come up with a word every year that kind of sets the tone. And so Eric shared his own perspective on this, and I really loved it, so I wanted to read some of it to you today. So Eric writes, Patrick, first, just want to say I love your podcast, and I'm particularly enjoying the new bite-sized cast. I just want to stop there. Eric, thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, he continues. I rely on you and Greg McCune to keep me focused. Just listened to the episode about momentum and really appreciated your perspective. Thought I'd share with you my approach, which I call the New Year's Imperative. That's a strong name, the New Year's Imperative. So here's what he writes. He says, since 2015, in lieu of a New Year's resolution, I've chosen a single imperative verb to guide my mindset and actions for the year. It has to be a verb so that I know I will do something differently. In 2015, he wanted to be more active, so the word was move. In 2016, he wanted to connect more with the thoughts and feelings of others, so he chose the word empathize. 2017 was about resist. 2018 was about contribute. 2019 was about create, and 2020 was about choose. That's a good one because he's trying to beat the old FOMO. I get that. Now he continues on, and this is really good. For 2021, my imperative is quote unquote complete. Over the years, I have learned about myself that my genius is in connecting dots, creating frameworks, and generating new ideas. As a result, I'm really good at starting things, but less good at finishing them. This year, then, I will work on seeing things through. So that, my friends, is what Eric wrote. And I think it's great that he's in touch with what he does well and doesn't do well, where he finds flow and where he needs flow, and has come up with a plan for 2021. So Eric, I want to thank you again for writing in. I want to wish you luck with Complete. I think it's a good one. And keep us posted on how it goes. Now, I'm going to continue here talking about flow state because if Eric manages to get into his flow state as he's doing these tasks he wants to do, one of them is working on a book, he will complete them. Now, as you'll remember, when are we in a flow state? We're in a flow state when we lose our sense of time. It's when we have a sense of ease, and there's a positive feedback loop. The more engaged you are with the task, the more positive feedback you receive, which encourages you to keep going. So you lose yourself in that thing. We have to remember, though, that watching television, reading a book, losing yourself in something like that, all those are great. You might lose sense of time. You might have a great sense of ease, but that is not flow state because they're passive activities. You're consuming something, and it's not that you're creating something. And so that's really important, thinking about that difference. And so as I thought about my own areas of flow, some of the things that made sense for me were writing, playing an instrument. I used to be a really serious piano player as a kid, and I would lose myself in that. Running is another one. Yoga is another one. There's stuff in the work environment. I love Excel, doing Excel models. I could spend 19 hours in a row. I love editing podcasts, believe it or not. Yikes. But I lose myself. I don't know what it is about it. I just so enjoy it. For other people, it could be things like playing chess, other sports. There's all kinds of activities. And so what's important to do as you're trying to achieve flow in all areas of your life, or as many as possible, is to think, okay, great. I have flow when I'm doing a certain activity. Let's go a level deeper. What's really happening? So for example, if you're playing an instrument, it's about creativity, right? It's about paying attention to the little details. You can think about some of those things that activity has in it, and then think about when you're doing other things in your life, how do you integrate some of those ideas into it? So perhaps you're doing something like cooking. Well, can you focus on the little details? Can you find the creative elements of that to find your flow as you cook? With the Excel, Excel for me, it's about putting together the pieces, finding the fit, finding the the flow, as it were, between when you put one thing in one cell and it comes out in another. And so when you recognize that you enjoy doing that, when you get into other tasks, can you identify the parts of that task that require the same types of approaches? Because when you do, if you can key into those, you're more likely to find flow. Once you know that something gives you flow, you can try to induce it in other areas of your life. That's the secret. And it's easier said than done. But if you read Stephen's book, obviously, he talks about this. And the other thing that he talked about that I really liked in the episode was the fact that if we are not in a good mental state, a good physical state, we cannot find flow. So you're not going to find flow if you're stressed out, exhausted, you haven't slept, you're not eating well. Those are the sort of basics. If you think about the hierarchy of needs of the human being, you want to make sure you're rested. You want to make sure that you're taking care of your mental health. You want to make sure that you're eating well, because then you kind of set the table to be able to achieve these higher level objectives, finding flow, right? And so obviously one thing he talked about in the interview that I thought was super interesting and we dug into a little bit is how do we create those routines? And so another thing you can do if you want to achieve those basic things so that you can set yourself up for flow is put them on the calendar. Make sure that you create routines for yourself. The more that you make something easy in your life, the more likely you are to do it. I think many of you know that I bought a Peloton last year. And so now to work out, when it's cold day in New York City and I want to go outside because I'm not going to the gym right now, given all the COVID stuff, just having it there in the apartment, just walk across the apartment and you can cycle and work out and sweat a little bit and just get in a flow state, because Peloton is about as flow state as anything I've ever done, to be honest with you. Doing those things and making them really easy, it makes a huge difference. So you can make an investment. Listen, Peloton's a big investment. I get that. But you can make small investments. For example, you can buy some minor equipment that you could exercise with at home. You could buy, if you wanted to start meditating, you could buy yourself an hourglass like I did, and you can time your meditations. You can download an app that reminds you every day. There's all kinds of ways to set up flow, but making it easy for yourself, making it simple, making those friction points disappear will make you far more likely to succeed and then set you up to have much more flow. All right, that is it for this week. If you have ideas, thoughts, reactions like Eric did, reach out to me at letsconnect@patrickmcginnis.com. You can find me also on Instagram at Patrick J. McGinnis, at Twitter at PJ McGinnis. I love hearing from you. And as you've just seen, you may show up on a future episode. FOMO. Want more of FOMO Sapiens and After Hours? Head over to FOMOSapiens.com where you can listen to past episodes, learn more about the show, and find out how to advertise. You can also connect with me on Instagram at Patrick J. McGinnis and on Twitter at PJ McGinnis.